Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Channeling Hallmark, the podcast where we talk about, all the things that make us feel warm and fuzzy, like we do when we watch sappy rom-coms. We have a very exciting episode for you today. We are going to be talking about the movie Our Little Secret, as well as interviewing one of the crew members of Our Little Secret. And Keetin, in true Our Little Secret fashion, where are we?
We're at my parents' house in Wilmington, North Carolina. Dylan was like a little bag lady while we were traveling and carried all of our equipment from Los Angeles to Wilmington and got it here safely. And it seems to be working, so I'm not mad about it. But we are excited in the future of this podcast to try to find fun locations that either relate to the movie we're reviewing or locations that just have that Channeling Hallmark feel of warm and cozy, and doing episodes from there to see how different locations bring out different things in us during the podcast.
Yeah, so I am visiting my in-laws' house, and I think I'm having a slightly different experience than in the movie Our Little Secret. Your mom, she's a little bit nicer than Kristen Chenoweth was in that movie, but we'll get into that soon. Before we do, this is only our second episode, so we're learning things, and I'm realizing that we should probably introduce ourselves. So hi, I'm Dylan, and I am joined by my wonderful wife and co-host,
Keetin Markey.
And we're so happy that you're listening. And another thing that we wanted to touch on is, Keetin, what are we sipping on today?
We are sipping on tea today. We will be spilling a little bit of tea later in the episode, but we are sipping on True Honey Tea's Blueberry Rooibos Tea. I'm going to let you hear what this little slurp sounds like. Here we go. Very sweet. I feel like it would be very good over ice. It's a little more summery than I anticipated, but my mother was adamant on us trying this tea, so we said we would try it on the podcast.
It's a good tea. I have no regrets. I feel like it tastes like a blueberry cobbler. Like it doesn't have the cinnamoniness, but the blueberry and the sweetness. I think it would honestly, it might almost be too sweet to pair it with a blueberry cobbler.
You couldn't.
Yeah,
that'd be wild.
Maybe like some shortbread cookies.
Yeah, that would be perfect to pair with it.
Here on Channeling Hallmark, we don't spill the tea. We sip the hot cocoa. So each week we will share our hot cocoa, which is a little info that we learned this week to, brighten your day. It made us feel warm and fuzzy, and we hope that it makes you feel a little warm and fuzzy too. So, Keetin, what's your hot cocoa this week?
So, my hot cocoa this week is releasing the first episode of our podcast with my husband. This has been something we have kind of thrown around for about a year. And so to finally have him click publish on the episode, it was
a big moment.
It was a really big moment, and it's really hard to start a podcast. Mad props to everybody who has done it or who has gone on this venture. And I think the thing that has made me feel the most warm and fuzzy of releasing this first episode and launching the podcast is the review from family and friends, and them being so excited for us and actually listening to it. My brother, he came in when he first saw us when we came to visit, and he was quoting things and giving us notes and telling us, "Oh, did you come up with that hot cocoa? That was good." I just think when people actually become engaged, that you wouldn't think would become engaged and listen and really, really, root for you, that really makes me feel warm and fuzzy. And so that was my hot cocoa for the week.
That's a good one. I will say we do love hearing the feedback from people. So if you have any feedback and you want to share it, please do. It's only going to make things better. And, if we listen to people, what they like, then I think hopefully we make a podcast that more people like. And that's the goal.
And we're also learning along the way. I know you have to share your hot cocoa moment, but we'll let you guys know kind of what this journey of starting a podcast is like, just in little tidbits every week. But it's been a fun journey so far, and I hope it continues to be fun. It's also a little stressful when you put yourself out there like that, but we're putting ourselves out there in a way to hopefully make other people feel better. And I think if we keep focusing on that goal, even if people are mean or nasty, which nobody's been mean or nasty yet, please don't, it's still a good time.
But hopefully you can all have fun listening to our many, many failures that we learn from and then get better with.
Oh, yeah. We're going to fail so much.
But anyways, my hot cocoa is something that I just wanted to share given the time of year that it is. We were recording this on December 26th, and this is one day after, almost 400 years ago, not quite. On December 25th, someone was born who changed the world in a way that I think is really cool. And that is Sir Isaac Newton. Sir Isaac Newton was born on December 25th, 1642. And guys, obviously we all know, well, sorry, I shouldn't assume that. We probably know who Sir Isaac Newton is. You know, he's the guy that the apple fell from the tree and he was like, oh, gravity, cool. But he is so much more than that. Like, I'm just going to take a minute to like nerd out a little bit over him. He changed mathematics and physics. We would not have the understanding that we do of the universe and astrophysics if it weren't for Sir Isaac Newton. And I love his contribution to the scientific world, and he makes me feel warm and fuzzy, because people who learn cool things, especially about space, are like so inspirational, and they make me feel warm and fuzzy. So that's my hot cocoa.
Oh,
it's Isaac Newton's birthday.
Well, and I love that Sir Isaac Newton shares a birthday with Jesus. So I think that's a beautiful thing that such a huge religious figurehead shares a birthday with such a huge scientific figurehead. And I think if we blended both a little bit more, I think everybody would be a little kinder and this might be a little happier place. So that was our hot cocoa of the week, but we would like to hear what yours was. Make sure you talk to us through our Instagram, our social media, Blue Sky, and let us know what made you feel warm and fuzzy this week at Channeling Hallmark. Dylan, tell us a little bit about Our Little Secret.
I would be happy to. Our Little Secret is the story of Avery and Logan, who 10 years after breaking up, find themselves reunited at the holidays when they learn that their new partners are siblings. Trying to avoid making the holidays more awkward, they decide not to tell anyone about their history, keeping it as their little secret. Directed by Stephen Herrick and starring Lindsay Lohan and Ian Harding, this movie takes two situations that seem familiar to many of us, meeting the in-laws and running into your ex, and smashes them together to create chaos. And then it throws in one more thing to stir the pot, Kristin Chenoweth. So, putting you on the spot, Keetin, how would you feel if when you first met my mom, she acted like Kristin Chenoweth's character?
Well, Dylan's mom is a retired judge and juvenile judge for that matter. So meeting Dylan's mom, I was very intimidated, very like, oh my gosh, she literally is a judge. So is she going to judge me? It would not have gone well. Although I think I would have gotten pretty sassy back pretty quickly. I think I would have held my own with a character like Kristin Chenoweth. I have a feeling I would have done something similar to how Lindsay Lohan's character Avery, I mean, she made a lot of really dumb mistakes, but I think she didn't kind of back down when Kristin Chenoweth's character kind of talked down to her. It was like, jeans, you know, like, and she was just like, okay, well, this is how this is going to be. And she tried to start playing the game, and she got kind of a partner in the game being her ex-boyfriend. And yeah, I probably would have done something similar, but Kristin Chenoweth is just, she's so good in this role. I love her so much.
One thing that Lindsay Lohan, especially in this movie, but a lot of the cast does really, is like they ground it very well. Lindsay Lohan's character feels very relatable. Ian Harding's character feels very relatable. And then to contrast that, you have Kristin Chenoweth, who, I mean, honestly, is relatable. I think we have kind of all met that person, but she is just such an extreme version of that character that it really is fun to see the way that these grounded characters respond to this really kooky, stern, kind of tough character to be around.
She's a wow woman.
She is.
I remember watching this movie for the first time and being like, oh my God, I've met this family. I've been in this house. I grew up for the most part, in the South, and I'm an Irish Catholic family. And so the whole church scene was very familiar. The meeting of the new boyfriends and girlfriends and the big parties. And, you know, I've been in those houses that have those creepy paintings on the walls, which funny enough, Dylan and I do have one of those paintings that we won in a contest. I'll have to post it on our Instagram.
It's not something we do every year, though.
It isn't.
You know, we don't have the room dedicated to that yet.
We don't nearly have the wall space, but I feel like I've met this family. It felt so familiar to me, which made it that much more. I felt it. It was just like, I was like, oh my God, the tea that's happening right now. And when like the little brother kind of caught them and he was in on the joke and then they're blackmailing each other. It was fun. It's such a fun kind of cat and mouse game.
Yeah. And like many of the best Christmas movies that we've already watched and will continue to watch, I feel like it is an ensemble cast that really makes this. Lindsay and Ian are great, But then you have so many different characters. Kristen Chenoweth, of course, but like Chris Parnell with his cameo as the vet, and he's great. I don't know.
Tim Meadows.
Yeah, Tim Meadows.
I mean, sorry, Mean Girls reunion, Lindsay and Tim, like
Right?
that was amazing.
And then I don't know if I'm saying this last name correctly, but Henry Cerny, Lindsay's dad in the movie, is also a character in Mission Impossible who is kind of known for having a great voice, and he still does in this. And he's a delightful character in this.
One of the things I've noticed just in the last episode and overhearing people say it, we say delightful a lot. So that is a 5-star review, delightful, I think, from either of us. But the cast as well being this, there was a lot of ensemble scenes where they're all playing off of each other, and it was just so much fun to watch, so much fun to see them kind of, even these looks told so much without the lines. It was just really fun situations. It was situations that all of us can relate to, the Christmas party, going to church, having to go run errands for said in-laws, the dog situation, which as soon as that happened, I literally yelled at the TV when she was like, oh, I'm just going to blame the dog. I'm like, no, you can't blame the dog. The dog can't eat chocolate. And then not knowing that was going to be the next kind of scene that they go into is them having to go to the vet and her having to make a deal with the vet so that they didn't actually pump this sweet little puppy's stomach. But yeah, it was. I still smile and my chest warms when I think about this movie and how funny it was.
Yeah, I think it was a very fun movie. I will say, maybe it's because we have watched quite a few Netflix holiday movies this season. But one thing this one really especially made me notice is Netflix is really pushing the Netflix cinematic universe, where like every movie has some reference to something else. We just watched Merry Gentlemen too, and that had them watching Christmas Prince in it. Our Little Secret starts out in 2014, and then it's like 10 years later, but it's got a 10-year montage, and that montage almost felt like Netflix propaganda with like, hey, look, Stranger Things, hey, Squid Game. So it did feel a little forced at that time at least, but the movie as a whole was so much fun. Really enjoyed it.
I'm not mad at that. It was a Netflix movie. You know what? You brag about yourself. If like you have a great timeline because you've had so much impact on society's water cooler talk, which is kind of what I felt like that montage at the beginning was. Hey, lean in.
I mean, maybe I just have a different perspective because I used to work at Netflix. So, little more of an eye for the IP that they're trying to push. Another thing that I do want to call out in this movie was the score. It had that kind of classic Christmas movie vibes in a way that I really enjoyed. It almost felt like the holidays score to me in some ways. It just felt really I know that's really saying something. The holiday has one of the best scores of any rom-com ever. And this was good. Yeah, it wasn't the holiday good. Sure. The score felt right for the movie. It really did a lot to make that cozy, comforting back home for Christmas vibe really come to life. So I really appreciated the score in this.
I would agree with you. It did feel like maybe they didn't have as much of like the music budget as Hot Frosty, but they made their original score and I don't know, it was a lot of fun. Can we also talk about Ian Harding? I did not know who this man was before I saw this film, and he is charming AF. This guy, like, let's talk about his jawline. Damn, good jawline. But just like such a sweet guy, such a sweetie. And I'm sure playing scenes across from the incredible and also like the huge star that is Lindsay Lohan is a little intimidating. And I loved their chemistry. It felt like they were lifelong friends before the romance. And I know a lot of times in these Hallmark movies, you're like, ooh, that chemistry is just not there. But I felt like they were friends. I don't know if they did work and they hung out before they filmed this to give us that feeling. But I really appreciated their scenes together. And also just like, he was so fun. Like when he walks in on the closet, like, and he's just like, I don't want to, like, it's, again, so grounding in this kind of chaotic, over the top world.
Yeah, they felt very natural in the roles, and they made the situation feel very natural in a way that I think did a lot to help the movie. I think the one thing that didn't quite feel natural to me was the whole scene with the gummies that, I don't want to spoil too much of the movie, but it just felt very forced to me in a way that the rest of the movie felt really grounded, believable, and like earnest. And that That scene felt a little, we just kind of wanted to throw this in
The
here.
church one. Well, that felt like a little nod to Love Actually again, where like they just busted out into song in the middle of a church.
I guess the situation to set it up where
she was
where
so
she
hungry
accidentally took the gummies
without looking at them
just didn't feel it felt forced to me. Wasn't working for me.
That's fair. But we've all taken, well, I don't know if we've all taken, we live in California, but so we've taken a gummy and been like, this is too much. So
true. You never know what you're going to eat in California. You always got to ask.
Especially if it comes in gummy form. No, but I felt so bad because as soon as she ate it too, they hadn't even revealed that they were THC gummies, and I was like, these are gonna be weed gummies. And
no one carries just gummies. Like, that is why it felt a little forced to me. Is like, who carries gummies that aren't THC gummies? Maybe that's just California me. It's very rare that adults just have fruit snacks on them.
Especially a teenage boy whose jacket she had stolen.
Yes.
Oh,
now cookies or brownies, I believe those accidental ones. Gummies, you knew what you were eating.
Uh-oh. Dylan has issues with the gummies. It did lead for a hilarious thing to happen in the church, and Catholic church at Christmas. It's very intense.
That's true. I did enjoy that scene. It was, the setup didn't work for me, but the payoff did.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with you on that. And then also just like how they reacted. I feel like I've lived pieces of this movie. I feel like I've met these people. Like this movie felt so much like home to me, as chaotic as it was. But I think that's kind of like the charm of family and the charm of family around Christmas, especially when you all become adults and everybody kind of has their own little lives and is their own kind of person now. And then when all those lives collide, it does cause for some silly things that I wonder if the writer pulled some of these scenarios just from their personal life.
I agree.
That was the other thing. This movie did not center around Christmas. This movie just centered around a family dynamic when new people come in. And it didn't feel like Christmas they could have completely taken Christmas out of this movie and it would have been the same movie and it would have been just as great.
Something that we did get asked to continue is our rating system. Keetin, how many marshmallows would you give Our Little Secret?
Oh, I think I would give Our Little Secret, just because we're early on, we're just starting off, I would say a 7. Is that too high?
No, I feel a little like I'm cheating here because that's exactly what I was going to give it as well, is 7 marshmallows. I feel like I really did enjoy it. It was not without flaws, but it is a movie that I would recommend. So 7
Absolutely.
marshmallows feels right to me.
It's a very fun movie. So absolutely check it out.
You can watch Our Little Secret on Netflix, a movie that we do recommend. And when we come back, we are going to be interviewing the camera operator from Our Little Secret, Daniel Fritz. So stay tuned. We are back, and we are ready for our interview with the amazing Daniel Fritz. Dan is a camera operator who, according to IMDb, has worked on over 68 titles, including Special, Pen 15, Christmas at Graceland Home for the Holidays, and most recently, Our Little Secret. You've had a 15-year career in the film and TV business as an AC camera operator and Steadicam op. You've obviously worked on a ton of different movies and TV shows, but it seems like a lot of them fit into the category of what I would call comfort movies. Ones that they have an optimistic outlook, feel cozy. So what is it about these kind of movies that draws you in? Or is that something that has just naturally happened?
First off, thank you so much for that. My mom's going to love me being on this podcast. Just like that little summary right there. Wow, that's so weird to hear all that all
Hi,
at
Mom.
once.
You've done some cool things, and you know what? She should be proud of you.
Oh, she's been having a blast these past couple of years. A lot of that, there's a lot of people in my career that I always will be grateful for. First and foremost, my best friend, Graham Robbins. He's actually found a lot of success in a lot of the currently Netflix, but Hallmark movies before then. Christmas at Graceland, he was the cinematographer on that. Our Little Secret, he was a cinematographer on that. He's done all 3 of the Lindsay movies on Netflix. And we've known each other since we were 7. And that's just one of those amazing friendships in my lifetime that like I'm again so grateful for, that none of what you described there listing my career, I couldn't have planned any of that, but I am eternally grateful for just like how that's turned out. And yeah, as you kind of mentioned there, maybe some of that has to do with my personality being generally very happy. So when people are trying to make a movie with that theming, I know I've talked with Graham as to like why he was able to bring me out for Our Little Secret and stuff. A big part of that is my personality, that it is easier to get a producer to hire someone when you can sell them on like, they're going to make the set life of this so much better for the actors, which will then make the producer's life that much easier and everything. So it's a little bit of, again, I definitely did not plan any of it, but there's definitely intentionality to where like, yeah, you got to live your life happy and cozy as much as possible.
Well, I guess that because of all your experience on different types of Christmas and cozy holiday movies, is that generally the vibe on set? Even if you're filming like in July, is the vibe on set like Christmas cozy fun time? We're going to all play make-believe right now?
I would say as much as possible, yes. There are definitely times when the weather is not that way at all. And actors do an amazing job sometimes being like fully bundled up and it's like 100 degrees and humid or something like that. So they I think do the most work on that like portrayal of it all. But I do think that the mentality of it, I think I definitely find very easy to be in that let's have fun. We're just making a movie, especially with Hallmark Christmas movies. A large part of why they're so much fun to make is because there's not a huge amount of stakes. And that's what kind of keeps everything just like comfy, easy, cozy and everything. So.
All right, so quickly for context, where and when did you shoot Our Little Secret?
So Our Little Secret, honestly, one of the easier ones because that we were in Atlanta in February of 2024, and that allowed for a decent amount of cool times. When I was packing to head over there, I was definitely worried about having to drive in snow or something like that. I'm from Southern California. I don't do super well with snow and everything. And yeah, while we were there, ended up not having to worry too much about snow. It did get down to about the 30s. I'd say the average temperature was 40s to 50s. It wasn't too hard for the actors to have to portray the weather at the time. And we had just come out of the holiday season, so enough mindset for it all. Yeah, that was definitely one of the easier ones.
That's good to know, because I remember you had that long, it seemed like a couple days at a Christmas tree farm.
Yes. Yeah. That one, it was interesting. I think that was supposed to be one of our first days filming with Ian and Lindsay. And I think one of them got sick, and it was, again, the beginning of 2024. There's still a little bit of that COVID mindset of things, that it's tough, as well as also a huge factor to this filming was Lindsay had just had her kid. So that played into a lot of how this set, I think, was ultimately run, and that she's a new mom and she wants to be with her kid as much as possible.
Of course.
As well as also don't get her sick.
Yes. Not with new baby.
Yeah.
I feel like Keetin is just itching to ask you more questions about the movie.
Wait. I'm just going to get, because
get it out. Get your fangirl out.
I'm going to get my fangirl out.
Let's go.
You literally got to work with two of my icons, Kristen Chenoweth and Lindsay Lohan. I feel like these two women have been a huge part of my life since I was in middle school and high school, from Mean Girls, Wicked. and everything in between. What were they like? Anything you can share? Were they as lovely as like you hope they are going to be, or what? Just tell me what that was like.
So, I mean, just first off, the whole cast, like it kind of kept blowing my mind how amazing the cast was that they put together, going from Tim Meadows and Dan Bucatinsky and like John Rudnitsky, just constantly people showing up and me being like, oh, I've seen you in so many things and now we're working together. Let's go. And then each one of them being absolutely amazing to work with. So much fun, so nice and kind. Lindsay, absolutely stunning at everything that she does. That like when she walks on set, we're all ready to go and she nails it each time. She definitely had some great inputs as to like how to develop her character. I feel like to me, and I think that the way that she developed her character of Avery does a great job of making it a classic holiday Christmas movie while still having a newer edge and perspective to it. That like how she brought agency to that character, I think was great. And again, you don't usually see that in a lot of holiday Christmas movies. So I think she did a great job, was super amazing on set. And again, just such clearly so cool to see her in her mom role of like, cool, let's do this job. And my priorities over there with my baby. And but also like, let's do the work. So that was great. Kristen Chenoweth specifically, literally exactly how you think she is in person. She is the warmest person. She knows everyone's name and comes and gives you a hug at the beginning of every morning and everything. So warm and so funny to work with. Absolutely stellar.
I like, first of all, my heart is so warm and bursting right now that those were the reviews, especially as a woman who works in film and TV, to hear that about Lindsay, who working mom, it's very hard in this industry, but to see her come back in the way she's come back as she's had a new baby, her first baby, that's amazing. And to go off what you were saying, she grounded this movie, because this movie there's a lot of silly things that happen, but she really did ground it. And especially against Kristen's kind of like over the top, crazy potential mother-in-law, who I adored. But okay, I'll stop being going. I mean, I can
get it out if you have more.
No, but this was my other thing it was an ensemble movie. There were so many group scenes. It wasn't just about kind of these, I guess, 4 lover characters and kind of this weird love square that was happening. So you obviously had all these amazing actors in these dinner scenes, in these party scenes. What was it like, especially as like a camera crew and team, dealing with, like, was it a lot of cameras picking up a lot of different scenes at once, or were you guys doing new setups often?
So we typically only had 2 cameras on set. There were a couple days that Graham opted to have a third camera. Mostly, I believe the church scene, we had a third camera because usually in those spaces, it allows for better access there, because more cameras doesn't always make things easier. And there's definitely a thing where as soon as you add a second camera, you do start compromising both shots, visually speaking, that like one camera will need lighting to be a certain way, and as soon as you add a second camera, they will likely start seeing lights, so you have to move them, and then that first image doesn't look as good. So there's always a balancing game that a cinematographer has to play with more cameras. And Graham, I think, did a great job figuring out when to use the 2 cameras versus the 3 cameras setups. I think the dinner table scenes, and maybe you need to look up Graham's texts about it all, but Graham is a hilarious person to work with, because he came up with this whole methodology that has a literal made up mathematical word of like how he did the like quadrants, the different quadrants of the table as we would get the coverage going around. And it was this whole like Albert Einstein brain moment that he like wrote it all out on a piece of paper that it looked like this just giant pie. And that's how he would show the camera team and be like, this is what we're doing. And we would all kind of look at him and be like, okay, it's funny and I kind of get what you're going for, so that we know generally what we're talking about and like what our plan is for the day as to how to make it through. But also, when you logically think about what the words you just said, they make no sense. They're not real words. So that was like the table scenes. Graham definitely led a lot of that. There's moments when usually two of the characters go off to the side and have a little conversation to themselves, and those usually were single camera handheld shots that I got to usually be the handheld camera for that. And those, Graham and I kind of decided style wise, like, let's go down to one camera here so that we can make these usually smaller areas look prettier, and also with the handheld vibe of it all, you can have some motion with it. That leading to one of the funniest scenes that didn't have Lindsay or Kristen in it at all, which again, the ensemble of this whole cast. But Ian finding Dan and Judy in the closet at the end there, that scene, some of the lines that they ended up saying and improving and stuff, there were a few times that I broke during that and like had to like hold the camera as steady as possible, even though it's handheld, because they were just hilarious. And then that also then leads into the finale scene that is that huge, the whole cast all there. And that one did actually... I feel like I definitely worked with Graham and the cast a lot to try to figure out all of those marks and all of that blocking. Steven, the director, is a fantastic director, really great, but that's a huge scene to try to figure out the blocking. He definitely, I think, figured out the base of it all. And then me and Graham both kind of put little inputs in there as to like, how do we make our day? How do we make this logical for the actors and everything, which they all had their own inputs as well that definitely helped design it all. It's a huge group effort fully to make that type of end scene happen. Yeah, it's kind of chaotic and kind of one of those things that Graham and I have a picture of us at the end of that day, like both laying on the floor looking at all of the marks for the actors everywhere. And like sometime an actor would just take like one small little step forward, which is a new mark and could create a whole nother camera setup. But again, working with Graham and making that scene handheld that allowed us to kind of flow and work together, we were able to get it done. And I think after that day, there was definitely a lot. Going into that day, there was a lot of stress. And by the end of it, we were all like, yeah, that worked.
You guys were like a little dance team. Like
exactly.
Well, and I think that's one thing people don't understand, and then I'm going to let Dylan ask a question. But when you, people who don't work in film and TV, it's not just about the actors' movements, especially in big group scenes when you have handheld cameras. Everything is a dance. And speaking of Kristen Chenoweth and Wicked, I've appreciated a lot of their kind of like behind the scenes videos that they're explaining kind of the level of creativity from every single crew member on set to make these ensemble scenes happen. And I was thinking about that a lot watching this, because I was like, there are so many people who are probably each giving so many great performances. How do you capture all those performances, but also not get caught on camera? So, Dylan, to you. He's still here.
I am still here. You mentioned that, like, that scene was stressful going into it. You mentioned that one of the reasons that oftentimes you are brought onto these projects is because of your attitude, your personality, your positivity. When those stressful times, how do you handle it in a way that doesn't detract from set, so you still have the right feeling on set?
I will say there's a huge reason I love my job being a camera / Steadicam operator and have no desire to be a cinematographer, is that I do just think my personality and where my temperament sits is best in that role. I love working with a cinematographer and working with a director and working with actors in that position where I do have creative thoughts and input into some of those scenes, and I know when I can like put them in, but I take no ego with any of it in my camera operator role. If they say no for whatever reason, be timing or it doesn't fit their ideas, I have such an easier time letting it go and being like, cool, not my movie, not my show, and let's keep going. Whereas I've found when I'm in a DP role or cinematographer role and I have an input, my personality, I hold on to that preciousness way too much. And I think that that's a huge challenge and something that I fully respect in cinematographers and directors, constantly having people with their own thoughts and their own ideas. That's the whole role of a director, right? Is trying to figure out how to balance everyone having their own idea of what a movie is. And that's what I do think, again, comes together really great in an ensemble movie like this, when it all gets nailed so perfectly, that like Kristen, knowing her like evil stepmom comedic relief, Lindsay knowing that she's the like lead ingenue that maybe is not going to have the most jokes, but needs to kind of drive a lot of the plot. And like, how do you do that in a non-generic way? Even Dan Bukatinsky, I think I will always go back to him, hearing some of his interviews post this as to like what his characters was in the script originally and everything versus what he brought to it on set, created a character that was so much more fun to watch, I think, and so much more like actually had just like one little line in a scene or something like that, that would then grow the next scene when you see him to like, okay, eventually when you find out he's having an affair, that he didn't know, but his wife knew the whole time. And like their whole dynamic ultimately pays off in the end. Mm-hmm. And that being something that, again, Steven, the director, being that director and being in that role of like, he needed to make sure that he wasn't being too precious about what's in the script and what this actor that's like having their own idea, how do you marry those things and bring that together? So yes, back to your original question. I love being a camera operator, having input that you can share, but then knowing when to just let the movie be the movie.
It is very much an ensemble movie. You probably had a lot of scenes where it is like that same 4, 5, 6 people together in a scene. Were the on-set dynamics, did it feel kind of familial in a similar way to the movie was, where it's like friends, family getting together with, you know, like a little tension here and there maybe, but it is kind of that comforting, we like being around each other vibe?
Absolutely. The vibes were very much, this is a group of friends making, friends or family making a movie. One of the best memories for me that I would say is some of the actors, even after work, would come out line dancing with me, because that's something that I've learned I love with traveling, is finding a place to go line dancing that is like a great vibe and a great release and a great like just gets you out of your head as to what you're like, what the movie is and stuff. And that was a project that I think it was like 4 of the actors and stuff did come join me line dancing at one point. So definitely a good friends and family vibe on this one.
Well, just out of curiosity, could you have any line dancing bar recommendations for like a couple different cities that you just want to kind of throw out, give a little shout out to?
Currently right now, and on the topic of our little secret, Heretic Bar in Atlanta. That was my favorite part of filming in Atlanta. And I love the city. There's so much to love about Atlanta. But Heretic specifically, if you want to go line dancing, it's great. No cover charge, amazing people, great vibes. So highly recommend Heretic on Thursdays.
If there are people listening that want to get into camera, get into film production, any advice, tips, warnings to stay away, anything like that?
Well, yeah, not the most cozy, comforting time, I feel like, right now in the film industry. I truly respect anyone who has this dream right now to get into the film industry and is going to fight. And there will be people that make it through right now, but we are kind of going through a contraction in the film industry and film and TV and everything. So it's definitely going to be really hard. But I know for me, like I said at the beginning, I couldn't have planned my career the way that it's turned out. And so it's good to go into it with a plan as much as possible. But no matter what, the main point is if you want it to happen and you're going to make it work, you're going to make it work. I think that's the best advice anyone can have is just keep going, keep figuring it out, and find your own way. My specific journey and story is not going to be anybody else's journey and story. I can't say go to Cal State Long Beach. win a game show that then allows you to buy a Steadicam operator or Steadicam thing that then gets you jobs on sets while also having a friend from 7 years old that also gets into the film industry and can hire you on projects and stuff, right? So no one's going to have that journey, but I know so many other Steadicam ops that were just able to figure out their own way and figure out what is the right way for them to find equipment that they can start working with and practice. And there's training workshops and everything that are highly recommended for how to figure out the right skills, but also meeting other operators that then they can pass you jobs and everything too. So there's countless numbers of ways, and everyone just needs to figure out their own way to make it work in this industry. So just keep going.
I have 2 follow-ups to that. First of all, what game show did you win that allowed you to buy your Steadicam kit?
I was on an episode of Wipeout in 2011. Yeah.
Are you okay? Any sustained injuries from when you did that over 10 years ago?
I was okay, and I was more than okay. I won my episode. But then also, there was a girl that broke 2 parts in her knee in my episode. I think there's like 8 to 9, maybe 10 people that had like physical therapy afterwards because they scorpion kicked. It is a very dangerous show, but it worked out great for me.
Oh my, that is such a fun fact about you, and I had no idea.
So it seems like in your career, you have had a bit of a balance with really like driving in a certain direction and going with the flow, taking what opportunities come your way. How have you personally navigated that kind of tug between like really pushing for a certain thing to happen versus just, seeing what happens, seeing what comes your way?
I feel very lucky that I do think I've mostly just gone with the flow and just not said no to a lot. Just said yes, ended up on some projects that weren't super fun to be on and just made it work, focused on the fact that ultimately a job is a job. I love what I do. It's amazing to be able to say that because I know a lot of people that don't like working in an office or something like that, but it pays the bills. And ultimately, the film life is that same way sometimes, that not every job is the happiest, but sometimes it just pays the bills and you get through it. Sometimes that's what it is, and that's okay. And that will eventually maybe lead to the next projects that you do get to really enjoy.
When we do the intro of the show, we do our hot cocoa moment of the week. So what's the thing that's happened in your week that it can be an Instagram post you saw or an event you attended or just like something that happened. So I want to see if you have a hot cocoa from the year of 2024.
Oh. It's been a great year, to be
good.
Perfectly honest.
Good.
So I want to make sure that I'm saying the right one. Again, so many moments that I could probably choose, but it's probably gonna be the cast and crew of Our Little Secret Coming Line Dancing, and I know we are talking about that on this podcast, so that's like what's foremost in my head right now. But I think that's probably still the one that's the most warm and cozy hot cocoa moment of the year. Yeah, because again, aside from the cast and crew, the people at that bar I've made friends with, and they are amazing and such a good group of people. And then to see my film life also get to come enjoy that again on the cast and crew side, that I think is just the best all around moment. Because again, so many good moments with my family, my husband, work life stuff, but I think that's probably the best like all around one that I would share from the year.
As we wrap things up, do you have any personal projects coming up that you're excited about? Anything you want to plug?
I believe the 2 next things coming out for me would be The Chosen Season 5, which is not a super warm and cozy season. If you know the show at all, it's about Jesus and His Disciples, and season 5 is coming out, and that is Holy Week, which like basically leads up to. It's not quite the crucifixion, but
betrayal.
Yeah, there's
tough times.
There's a lot happening in that week, but still a lot of fun to watch, to be perfectly honest. So that, and then The Promised Land, which is the story of Moses told in the style of The Office. So
Stop.
Definitely a lot more fun and cozy in different ways. So highly recommend that. They have a pilot out on YouTube right now, and we finished filming the season. So they'll figure out where they're distributing that.
So far we don't know where we can watch The Promised Land, because I'm in.
Correct. The Promised Land YouTube for the pilot. The Chosen has their own app for free, so you can watch that season there. And then we'll keep you updated with Promised Land.
Are they dropping The Chosen right before Easter?
They announced April so
Okay,
far.
That's just in time for Easter. Easter, lead us up to it.
They've been doing mostly the theaters for their first releases, and so that's actually been so much fun to go watch a TV show in the theaters. It's been quite the cool experience that like TV nowadays, everyone watches on their own schedule. Usually with streaming and everything. So being all able to watch episodes of a TV show in a theater all at the same time and then talk about it afterwards really kind of brings you back to those good old times of like having those chats of like, oh, what's going on with this story? Is so exciting.
Where can people, if you want people to follow you or on social media, where can we follow you on social media or IMDb or whatever?
Pretty much at Ready Steady Dan on most social media things, mainly Instagram, Ready with a Y, Steady with an I. Instagram's definitely the main and pretty much only one that I actually use.
So if you need a Steadicam op, there's your contact right there. But thank you for being here and being our first interview here at Channeling Hallmark.
I'm
feel like
so
you're the
honored.
Perfect one to do it. Let us know when you have more Hallmark movies coming out, and
for sure,
maybe we can do an episode at a line dance spot.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like we need to host our first official Channeling Hallmark line dancing event. So.
Well, I think that'll have to be our first meet and greet. We'll have to be at a line dancing bar just to commemorate our first interview.
Yeah. Love this.
Okay.
Love this.
Great.
Let me know however I can help.
Appreciate you.
That was our interview with the amazing Daniel Fritz. We will link to his Instagram page in our show notes, but that's our episode. Thank you so much for listening. Keetin, what do we want people to do?
We would love for you to like, subscribe, rate, leave your comments, follow us on social media at Channeling Hallmark on Instagram, YouTube, and that new thing,
Blue Sky.
But thank you all so much for listening. We hope you and your family had a wonderful Christmas, and we look forward to hanging out with you more in the new year and channeling Hallmark with you every week. Again, we're your host. I'm Keetin Markey.
And I'm Dylan Cashpaw.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Channeling Hallmark is an independently produced podcast and is neither sponsored nor sanctioned by Hallmark or any other entity. Thank you for listening.